Great morning to each and every last one of you. Great morning, great morning. It is good to be here on this wonderful, wonderful morning. I hope you guys are doing good this morning, Come on here and let us know that you are on here. We are excited that you are here on this morning. We have something powerful, and then we have something great for you guys for tomorrow. And we are elated about all of that. And so we are ecstatic that we get the chance to come and show up for you all on this day. Hoping that you guys are doing super, super grand this morning. Let us know that you are on here. So excited. Thank you guys. Thank you guys. We are loving the opportunity to come and share and be on here. And so we are blessed and highly, highly favored and just ecstatic. We actually, so come on in the room and let us know that you can see us. Yes, let us know that you can see us. We would greatly appreciate that. Let us know that you can see us on this morning. Yes. Good morning to each and every last one of you. Blessings, blessings, blessings. Okay, we see you guys. We have some really great stuff, and we have the topic for tomorrow. We spent some time yesterday and went over all of the topics that you guys have submitted to us, and we are hoping that we are checking it all off. We have been checking them off. So we want to just kind of do a check-in to make sure we're still on track and on target. We see you guys here. Thank you guys. I'm going to go ahead and share. So will you guys do me a big favor and share? I'll give you the topic, and I'm going to that we're going to talk about today. That's very interesting topic. So I want you to get it. So today we're going to be talking about abuse. You guys had wrote in, I think it was several different questions and topics to deal with. And so at the beginning of this process for the mental health tour, so we're going to talk about abuse, and we're going to talk about the stained soul, when the soul is stained, the stained soul. And that's what we're going to talk about. And we are elated to be able to talk about, and we're grateful to be able to talk about. And so we're just going to send this to a few folks. Give us a minute or two. And give us a minute or two. And yes, abuse. When the soul gets stained, or the same stained soul. When the soul gets stained. So we're just sharing it with folks. Can you guys share it with at least 10 people? That would be so super great. So super great. Let's share it with at least 10 people. I'm going to share it with 75, and it doesn't allow me to do it until we come on here, or else I would do it. And that would be a great thing to do. So I'm sharing it with 75 people. If you guys can share it as well with 70, it'd be great if you share it with 20. And make sure your page is not on private. Many of your pages are on private. Go into the 3 little dots to the right underneath your name and make your page public. And it will reach a lot more people. Then it would reach your friends' friends, and they will get a chance to see that you've gone live, or that you're on live, or something of that nature, that you want them to see something. So do that. That would also help a lot as well. And thank you guys who are getting the message. We want you to join us right now. We're talking about abuse, when the soul gets stained. And we're going to talk about how you get that soul not stained anymore. Abuse is funny. Abuse is very funny. We're going to give us a second. We're going to do a few more folks, just because they don't have it to where you can do it just everybody that's in your messenger or in your whatever. So we have to do it like this, but it's okay. And we are grateful for the ability to do it all. So, all right, perfect. So let me know. Okay. Okay, let us know. All right, we're talking about abuse. Let's get up to at least 20 folks watching us. Hey, Corinda, good morning to you. Good morning, Monica. Good morning, Larita. Good morning, Melanie. Good morning, Sybil. Good morning, Zelinda. Go ahead and share with some folks. We're going to talk about abuse in a way that you've not ever heard about abuse. And while I am doing that, I'm going to grab something. I'm going to get off of here. But what I want you to do, because you're going to see it be black, all I want you to do is keep reporting. Good morning, my dear. We are talking about abuse today, and we're going to talk about it in a powerful, different way. Vanessa Elliott, y'all share. I need you guys to share. Let me share it to some groups too. Share and share. Share this thing if you can. It's so important. We need to share it. Share it. Abuse. Yeah, let's share it. Abuse and when the soul gets stained, abuse. Abuse is so, you'll be surprised why some people act the way they act. Somebody wants me to send it to some other, let me just send it there really quick. So let me do that, and then we'll be good to go, y'all. Thank you for being so wonderfully patient, but it makes no sense if we're doing it and we don't have an audience. We need to have an audience. I want an audience, and I believe the information I have is great. All right, so now that you're here, I want you to write on your paper, abuse. And I want you to write on your paper the times that you have ever felt abused, the times that you've ever felt some kind of way. And then I want you to, and then times that you got healed from it, all right? So we're gonna be black for just about 30 seconds. I've got to grab something, and then we'll be right back on. Continue to keep sharing, and I appreciate that. All right, beautiful people, we are back, and we are excited. I think we have invited everybody that we wanted to invite. So definitely go ahead and share. I appreciate that. Thank you, Corinda, for sharing. Thank you, Zelinda, for sharing. I appreciate that. Absolutely. All right, listen, here's a topic that is familiar to some maybe, and not so familiar to others. And so we hate that anybody has had to engender the whole aspect of abuse. It is what it is. But I'm going to give us a different perspective about it. And I want to have this conversation because in our questions, it was addressed and asked if we would address the conversation of getting out of abusive relationships and how to heal and become better. And as I started to think about this whole concept, this whole topic, and things of that nature, it became very evident that we needed to have a different type of conversation. And so we are going there to have this conversation. All right. For those who do not know who I am, I'm Dr. Lakita. I'm so grateful to be your host on today and for the I Speak Life Mental Health Tour. We are still commemorating the National Mental Health Awareness Month. I do know that it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month as well. My focus, though, is always going to really primarily be on mental health, because my mission is to shift the culture of the mental health system, the world system, the whole aspects of mental health. So my job, desire, mission is to shift the culture of mental health, how we view it, how we deal with it, how we treat it, how we move forward about it. I believe firmly that you can use biblical principles and psychological concepts in order to help people live better lives. It is my desire, it is my push, it is my aim that if we're going to have a better world system, a better people in the world, people's minds need to be more clear, more sober. It needs to be more intentional. There needs to be a different level of love. And so my push and my mission is to shift the whole culture to the way in which we look at it from a psychological perspective, psychiatry perspective, the whole dynamics around pharmacology, how we look at medicines, things of that nature. I believe as long as we keep the spirit aspect, God out of it, we're going to continue to see the rupture of the mess, because you cannot do this work that is dealing with people's spirit and dealing with the things that they have had go on in their soul. You cannot deal with those things without inviting the power and the presence of God. And I know in the scientist world, they don't like to deal with this thing about spirit and things of that nature. But when science allows spirit to actually get in, then things are revealed to men and women about this life that we so live in. So it is imperative that we look at it from that different perspective. All right. Are you guys ready? Are you guys good? All right. Because I'm good and I'm ready to go. And we're so excited. All right. So today we're talking about abuse, and we're going to talk about when the soul gets stained, or how the soul gets stained. So here's the preface. You ready? All right. If you were coming in, I did ask you guys to put on your piece of paper a time when you were abused, a time that you was inflicted in your soul because of abuse. We're going to deal with what is abuse, what abuse does to the mind, mentally, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All right, here we go. Abuse is something that is difficult to deal with or to pinpoint, and often has so many layers in it that it's hard to actually see the beginning and the ending of it. Abuse is the improper usage or treatment of a thing, often to unfairly or improperly gain benefit. Abuse comes in many different forms. It comes in the physical, verbal, maltreatment, injury, assault, violation, rape, unjust practices, crimes, or other aggressions. Abuse is when someone intentionally causes harm to us and or distress. It could take on many different forms, ranging from disrespect to causing someone physical or mental pain. Abuse can occur in a home, a care home facility, a hospital, or a public place. It can also, unfortunately, occur in our churches as well. Often the people who are committing abuse are taking advantage of a special relationship, and that's really important. Abuse occurs because someone is taking advantage of a special relationship. Within children, there are 4 different types of abuse. Children endure physical, emotional, sexual, and neglect. These are the 4 areas of abuse as it pertains to children. And each and every last one of those things are engendered upon the child because of a parent or a caregiver is doing something that intentionally causes them harm. Examples and forms of abuse include, and I want to give you specificities of things that actually is a creation of abuse, so you will know it, feel it, and see it the next time you are in an abusive situation. The first one is intimidation. When you feel intimidated or someone is intimidating you, it is an example of abuse. Coercion, going against your desired plan and or will until you say yes when you really wanted to say no. Ridiculing, someone who ridicules you even in a joking way, too often, too much, moves into and banters into abuse. Ridicule, even under the guise of it being funny or trying to pinpoint something, after a while becomes abuse because it locks the person who's receiving the ridicule into a mindset of self-hatred or projection that a person is hating on them. The 4th one, harassment. someone harassing you beyond the extension of play and joking. This is why the Bible talks about we ought to make joking and jesting of little to none, basically. Number 5, treating an adult like a child is an example of abuse. You know, when an adult is made to seem as if they have no voice, no mind of their own. Hello, somebody. Treating an adult like a child is an example of abuse. Number 6, isolating an adult from family and friends. It's a form of abuse. Like a person maybe get married to a person, and whereas they had access to their family and friends upon getting married, they have no access. And it's always made difficult for them to be able to connect with the people that they love. The next one, yelling or screaming, which results in mental distress. The last one is yelling or screaming, which results in mental distress. So someone always yelling at you and screaming at you, and that yelling and screaming ends up becoming more mental distress than anything. Does that make sense? So those are the 8 examples of abuse. I want you to get real clear. We're going there. Y'all ready? All right. Come on, scholars. Abuse stains the soul because it affects all areas of one's life: the mind, the body, the spirit. And so it shows up in our bodies when unaddressed and undealt with. People who have been abused or been in abusive relationships or situations have had hard times distinguishing who is doing what and to what degree. And the reason for this is because, number 1, boundaries are lost when you are in abusive situations and you're not even aware that you're in abusive situations. Your boundaries are skewed, your boundaries are lost, and whatever that person who has been abusing you desires from you, they get it all the time because they use those 8 examples that I shared: intimidation, coercion, ridiculing, harassment, etc. So boundaries are very loose. You have a lack of ability to know what actually is going on or what's being asked of you. Your ability to regulate your emotions becomes very, very tough. When you are being abused, you don't really know that you are actually abused until you are not showing up as yourself. So then we ask the question, how does abuse affect a person mentally? How does abuse affect a person mentally? So earlier I shared with you that there were 4 types of abuse as it pertains to children. There was physical, emotional, sexual, and there was physical, emotional, sexual, and neglect. So the differentiation with child abuse and that of adult is that there's this level of neglect, okay? But the most 5 common types of abuse for adults is psychological abuse, physical, sexual, financial, and emotional. The immediate emotional effects of abuse brings you to neglect, isolation, fear, and, are you ready for this? The inability to trust. So when I connect with people or talk to people who have an inability to trust, I'm working in my head, going backwards, and I see that they move in fear, which I think is the lack of decision, the inability to decide. Then I usually can see at the end of the tunnel that the individual has been abused in some way. The inability to trust is a huge red flag about a person having been abused. And it could be that a person has been abused in their interpersonal relationships with others. Does that make sense? So that person they were in an interpersonal relationship with now has taken away the ability for them to be able to trust other friendships or whatever the case may be. And let me tell you something, and you guys are going to hear me say it a couple times today, that it's our responsibility, unfortunately and fortunately, that even though we might have been abused, we can't stay abused. We can't have an abused mindset, abused outlook, an abused perspective. Like, that's just not going to work. So what we're going to have to do is, once the abuse has occurred in the past, or even it had just happened, you've got to figure out, I don't want my soul stained. Because when abuse comes, it stains the soul. So it's up to us to decide, I don't want my soul stained, because out of my soul is my will, my emotions, and my intellect. It's the thing that gives me the life, joy, the peace that I desire to have. So if my soul is stained because of abuse, then I'm not going to be as vibrant and effective. Does that make sense? Experiencing abuse or trauma puts people at risk of developing mental health conditions. So when you and I experience abuse, we are making ourselves prone to mental health conditions. And those conditions are anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder. Are you following me? All right. It brings us into a space, and it touches the aspects of low self-esteem, increased fear, guilt, self-blame, distrust of people, distrust of yourself. Come on here. And difficulty forming relationships. It also disrupts attachments with those relationships as well. Do you understand? So when the soul is stained by abuse, there is an imprint that lasts longer than the talk of the person saying that they are feeling well and feeling healed. Our souls are deeply ingrained within the experiences of our lives. If our experiences are held hostage by abuse, we are swayed and charged and moved to develop in a different kind of way. Many types of abuse occur, as we've already stated, in the various places. I want to talk about when abuse shows up in the church. When abuse shows up in the church, many times it starts with the thing called hurt. And I know many people hate that whole concept of church hurt. And I have my own concept of it all. I believe that people have church hurt because they come into the church, they already got stuff going on, then they run into something, an experience, an emotion, a reality, a thing that takes place, and now they have become increasingly hurt while being in the church, or the propagation, or the propelling, or the perpetual injury to one's soul and or spirit. But what I want to talk about in regards to church abuse is that hurt people say that they've been hurt from the church, and I actually believe that the hurt is actually abuse. Let's follow me. When you are in a church environment and the sabotage and the craziness of communication and the gangster-like mafia style bullying environment creates this kind of toxic way of being where people are not hurt, people are abused. People's mindsets are abused, people's way of living and being are abused, and they're not even knowing it. And so when they finally get a chance to catch themselves or realize what's going on, and if it's uncorrected and undealt with, then they leave and they're hurt. But I want to tell the person, you're not just hurt, you have experienced abuse, a traumatic, intentional experience of wounding of your soul that now has caused you to see church in a different kind of way. And I want to encourage you by saying to you, there is a way to unstain your soul. There is a way to deal differently concerning the abuse that you've experienced, that you have now categorically spoke of in the form of hurt. It is not just hurt. No, everybody's not hurt. You came in with your hurt. You came in with your sins. You came in there to be washed. But you can leave out being abused and having been abused and having been overlooked and and all these things compounded layers upon layers. But let's deal with it. You and I cannot stay in any state that's less than the state that God has given us power and authority over. And I know this may not be a popular conversation, but I want to deal with some things that's absolutely necessary. Yes, I was abused. Yes, growing up, there was abuse. I've experienced it, physical, not so much I didn't experience any physical abuse. I experienced what I felt like was neglect, because I kind of had to raise myself, tend to myself. They were present early on, and then there was a period, 3-4 years, where they weren't really present. You know what I'm saying? And so, you know, in hindsight, that's neglect. Then they jumped back on board and they were present, but the neglect was there. It stained my soul. And so abuse is very real in the church. Are you following me? It's not just hurt. We use the term hurt because the term abuse is so strong, but people have really been categorically abused in the church. And I'm not just talking about the physical abuse, psychological, emotional, all the different types of stuff that goes unrepented. You know what I'm saying? People think they can do and say different things because of a position or whatever, and we just can't. We just shouldn't. We should preach this gospel, teach this gospel, correct, put things in alignment, be the mandate God called, but we cannot do things that intentionally and even unintentionally harm people psychologically. And what I mean by that is that if someone comes to tell me, Dr. Lakita, what you did, what you said, how you're moving, it is affecting me in a mental health way to where I'm unable to receive from God, or I can't I, as a spiritual leader, have to think about what's being stated and being said, and especially if it's coming from more than one person. All the people ain't crazy. Does it make sense? Holler at me back. All right. So how do you unstain the soul? How do you unstain the soul? All right. Number one, acknowledge that you've been abused or have encountered abuse. That's how you began the process. Acknowledge, I have been psychologically abused, emotionally, physically, sexually, financially. You got to acknowledge that you've been abused from one of those 5 common abuses. Acknowledge it. Number 2, you need to do a heart inventory. Heart inventory. Are you still holding the abuser close to your heart because you can't forgive them? You won't let them go. So then now it's not just the abuser that you're holding, it's the spirit that the abuser have. And if you see that spirit in anybody else, you operate the same way with all those people. Well, that means you have held yourself into a prison, and he who the Son sets free is free indeed. If you've been free indeed, then loose the oppressor, loose the abuser from your thoughts, and loose everything else from your thoughts as well. Like, you've got to decide, I don't want to be sick in my body. So I want to remove the abuser, the abused mindset, the abused feeling, the abused thought. I want to remove it all so that my soul can be unstained. Does it make sense? So you got to do a heart inventory. Are you holding on to it? And what is your holding on to it doing for you? Because those who hold on to how they've been abused, and when they were abused, they're holding on to it because it provides something for you. Hello. I could hold on to that I was sexually abused one time, or that there's sexual innuendos of adult men. That was a level of abuse crossing over the lines. It abused the violation of my innocent mindset. I knew that they were talking about something that I didn't even need to even be a part of. Does it make sense? I can hold them hostage 35 years later and remember it to a fault. Or I could decide, no, I'm going to get free. I'm going to renew my mind, even if their mind is still crazy. My job is to not make sure that this abuse stains my soul, causes me to be hampered in my ability to be free in this world system. I don't want to be traveling the world, and every time I look at a man that's this, that, other, tall, or whatever, that I lose it. No. I want to have authority over everything. And so I'm going to deal with the abuse, and I'm going to have a heart inventory and look at it. Number 3, you must give up the notion that once you've been soiled in a negative way, that you've been stained forever. You've not been stained. Just because you've been abused in some type of way, your soul does not have to be stained forever. The power of regeneration and the universality of what God called us to become and coming into the light of his word is the power of being in Christ, being a Christian, being a believer, which is why I love so much. No, I don't get to hold on to the fact that somebody abused me. I don't get to. because it does nothing good for me. David stayed in God's presence. His soul was stained at an early age, and we knew that by the lack of inclusion, even in his own family, which is why he found it much more palatable to go hang out with the sheep. It gave him something to do, kept his mind great, and he could focus on what he was good at. And he saw the reward of what it was to be a shepherd to the sheep. Because family and the lack of acceptance from a family can be a really great, awful deterrent to one's soul. And because David fixated his mind on the project, even when he was dealing with the lack of acceptance, when it came to him being king, he was able to handle his assignments well and move forward. Here's another piece as we come to a close, and I didn't even realize that we were past our time. This is the last thing I will share. You must make sure that you are not the abuser. We always talk about everybody abusing us, doing something to us. You, sister, you, brother, make sure you're not the abuser. That your language is not captivating and holding someone hostage. That you're not putting someone in a situation that they cannot get out of. Remember this as we come to the close. Abuse is subtle. It lurks in the darkness of people's minds, and it's designed to stain the soul. But God gives us life, and that life becomes the light of men. And so I pray on today that you have heard something, learned something, understood something, began to process something different, and you make sure that you're not the abuser also. Don't be looking at what people have done to you. And please, for God's sake, let's not hold on to the abuse forever. If you are currently in an abusive situation, you've got to really rethink some things and figure out how you're going to get free. Because if you are living and you are abused, it's a poor way of being alive. And this is why I keep pushing, do some brief counseling. Do brief counseling. Get in. You don't have to be in counseling for 5 years. Get into some brief counseling. You can find that information on our Facebook page, and we'll be more than happy to serve you if you desire that to take place. So that's what we got for you guys today. And but let me tell you where we're going though tomorrow. Good Lord. Y'all ready? So tomorrow though, we are going to the hater syndrome. We're going to deal with the hater syndrome and how it impacts our mental health. Lord have mercy. The hater syndrome. You do not want to miss tomorrow. And the reason why you don't want to miss it, because it's going to change the game on this whole hateration. You will not even say hater the same way or see it the same way after we're done on tomorrow. So God bless you guys. I pray you guys doing well. Have a great rest of your day. Remember, you don't have to remain the same way that you came in from the level of abuse that you might have experienced. I am sympathetic, empathetic to all types of violence and abuse that occur with people, to people, but I'm much more interested in helping you to heal from it so you can thrive and be your very best self. God bless. Love you so much and have a wonderful, wonderful day. God bless you guys. And thank you guys for your stars, your loves, your likes. We appreciate you greatly, greatly, greatly. We love you, and we'll see you on tomorrow. The hater syndrome coming at you tomorrow morning.